Welcome to our next episode of Two Women Who Give a Puck. I am Tara.
And I am Sarah.
And we are, this will be our third episode, and we are here to talk to you about how we can highlight the experiences of women in hockey, whether it's coaching or playing, and how to provide, hoping to provide some tangible ways to create positive change in the sport and to make women and girls feel more welcome and included. Last episode we interviewed me and got my hockey story, and today we're gonna do it with Sarah.
Yay.
Yeah. Sarah, why don't you start with where your hockey story starts?
All right, I can start with my hockey story. So mine's a little different than Tara's. I started later in life. So I grew up on a lake in Minnesota. And so from the time, I started skating, from 2, 3, 4, I don't even know when, because every year my parents would shovel off. It was actually a channel on a lake. And it got to the point where they were going 3 houses, like the length of 3 houses, they would shovel it off. And all the neighborhood kids would come over and skate. And at that time, my parents had bought me figure skates because I'm a girl. That's what we do. We have figure skates, and that's all you saw. Like in the Olympics, I'd watch the figure skaters, and then I'd go out on the rink and try and do their little things. I was never, good enough or brave enough to really do big jumps, but
yeah.
I could jump off of 1 foot and land on one sometimes to a little squirrel. And so that's really what it was. That's how I learned how to skate, was just playing in the backyard with the kids. And when I was around 12, I think it was the first time that women's hockey was in the Olympics. I don't remember.
98.
So it would have been before then. So I'm not really sure where it came from, but I remember my dad
I could be wrong about the 98 too.
Yeah. And because that would have been after I had already started playing. So maybe it was 94. That might have been, who knows?
We'll do some research.
Yeah, we'll do some Googling. And I just remember my dad calling me in or asking me hey, do you want to do that? And I was like, sure, that sounds like fun. I had played basketball a few. I know, basketball. Yeah, that terrible sport. My dad absolutely loves basketball, so.
That's 3 in a row.
Yeah. Yes, he can do it. But we realized I'm short, and, I wasn't going to grow much. I'd stopped growing when I was 12, so it was like, well, she's not going to be much taller than 5'2", so basketball may not be her thing. And I enjoyed it-ish, but not much. So I think it was kind of a matter of, all right, well, what sport is she going to play in the winter?
Yeah.
And so we came across hockey. And so then that winter, they bought me hockey skates. And so I, started skating in the backyard. I did notice the big difference, no toe pick. And I learned that the hard way because one of my biggest passions out on the outdoor rink was racing the neighborhood kids, boys, girls, everyone. I had the speed, so I could beat pretty much everyone. And when I would race, I would run on my toes for the first few strides. And so the first few times I went to race on,
didn't let you all day,
but flat on my face, no equipment. I'm sure I had, many nicks in my shins and knees from falling down on the ice. So that was a big thing. I had to learn how to start my races differently. Yes. It's not a run. It's quick pushes.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I switched to hockey skates, got a stick, started playing around in the backyard. My dad signed me up for a few summer camps to, and then it was all girls summer camps, if I remember. So there were definitely quite a few girls coming up at that time, really working on the edges and just learning hockey more. And then when I was so it had been 8th grade, I joined a all-girls team. And I believe, so this is Osseo Maple Grove Association, which is a pretty big association. And we were the only all girls team within that whole association. So it would have kind of been the, Pee Wee Bantam ages, so 15U.
Sure.
And so I spent 2 years at that 15U level, and then in 10th grade, then went and played for the high school team.
Yep.
And when I started playing, I just absolutely fell in love with this sport. There's just something about it where it's like you feel so strong and like so graceful at the same time, like having that speed and using your edges, and
Yep.
like it's just so much fun. And then obviously because I could skate, I was, a step ahead of the other girls who were starting at that same
Right.
age, because they were still learning how to skate. And so that's what helped me then, be able to play in high school, and then ultimately play in college for St. Ben's. So I have, if you're watching on YouTube, I still have my one of my college hockey sweatshirts. So that's exciting. It's only 5 years old.
5, yeah.
5. Only 5 years old. It looks pretty good still.
All right, I'll have to wear mine next time.
Yeah. You can live it up next time.
Yep.
And so played, in college. I didn't know what I wanted to do in college, and the two main pieces were like, I want to study abroad, and if I can play hockey, I want to go play hockey. And was able to do both of those. Even while playing hockey, I decided to take a semester to go study abroad in the fall, which seems pretty crazy, but it was like I was playing D3 hockey, so it's not, like I was getting paid in D1, and so I took that opportunity to spend a semester abroad, and then came back and finished off the season, which seems pretty silly too, because I came back in January.
That's a very understanding coach to let you do that.
Yes, and I think part of it is like, it's a small private school, it's D3, it's, they always talk about it's school comes first before hockey, and
Yep.
so I don't know, I was able to do that, which was great, and quite a few girls after me also went and studied abroad after, and did both. So I was kind of gave them that example of, hey,
We can do this.
we can do it a different way, and it is, it is worth it. We're not going to be playing professionally or playing in the Olympics.
Yeah.
So hockey, although it's incredibly important to us, like we can also do
Life.
Yep, life and other things. And so, I mean, high school, college had a love-hate relationship with the sport. Like you said, like it's a grind.
Yeah.
It's 4 days of practices, 2 games. It's, incredibly competitive, where coaches are, they're playing to win, and
Long trips on buses.
Yeah, we're driving, all around the state to go play games, and you're going, doing school
Yep.
as well. So it's a grind. And I always tell anyone, like, stay in the youth program as long as you can. As cool as it seems to be a 7th grader on, the varsity team or the high school team, like you're losing out on those fun years of hockey.
Yep. Absolutely.
So not to say you can't have fun in high school, or college, but it's just a different,
Yeah.
it's a different
level of commitment. Yeah.
Yeah. So I absolutely loved the game, the challenge, but it came with the challenges of just that grind.
Yep.
And so graduated from college, and really have been playing hockey ever since, in a women's league here in the Twin Cities. The year after I graduated college, I went and taught English in Austria, so I didn't play there. I brought my
I was gonna say, did you? They have.
I did actually. I did practice with a team a few times, and was considering like playing around with them. They're like, "Ooh, Team USA. Ooh, you're like this Olympic level player." I'm like, "Trust me, ladies, it's
Hold on.
way far off from where I am an Olympic player is."
Yeah.
It was like I was an average player. High school, college, I was on the first line or the fourth line, like
Yeah.
kind of all over the board. I was never the best one out there, but I don't think I was ever the worst one out there. So
Sure.
they gave me a lot more credit than I deserved of being, Team USA. But ultimately, I decided not to like join the team. But I did bring my equipment with, and every time I've lived abroad, I've actually brought at
That's
least
pretty
my
cool.
hockey skates
Oh, the skates,
with.
yeah, but it's like a whole bag.
Not yeah. Although I think my parents came to visit me and brought the bag with once I found a team.
Yeah.
And then did they come back and bring it back with them? I can't remember if I actually. No, I think they brought it in their suitcases, and then I like
Well, they're
I don't
close.
know. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure they washed it beforehand. Yes, I'm sure. But pretty much from the time I graduated in the early 2000s, so this is a little more than 5 years old. It's about 20. I guess I can admit
I don't
that.
like getting on the leave side.
We've been playing in so WHAM, Women's Hockey Association of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Apart from a few times I lived abroad, and then babies. It's hard to play when you're pregnant.
Yeah.
So all three of them, I had to take some time off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
can't even imagine.
And it's a struggle to get back because, man, do you use your growing muscles a lot. I felt like a baby deer who going into the corners the last time. Well, I remember it more with Hazel, obviously, because that was a year and a half ago. So yeah, getting back into the corners is like and stopping and starting.
Yep.
Bit of a challenge after you
Haven't done it.
have a baby that destroys
All of you.
things. Yeah.
All of you. Let's be honest.
Yes. Yeah. Mentally, physically, all of you.
Emotionally. Financially.
True. Yes, but we love them.
Sure.
We have more of them. And yeah, still still really had a love-hate relationship with the sport because I absolutely loved it. I loved the feeling of being on the ice, but I was so mentally hard on myself. I realized even when I was playing in WHAM, it for nothing. It's just a recreational league, but I would be just in my head all the time with oh, how could you have made a mistake? Oh, your teammates don't they're embarrassed by you out here. They don't want you out here. And when I always knew I was going to coach, and especially after having a daughter, it's well, for sure. I'm there's no question I'm going to coach her. Never thought I'd be a head coach, wanted to be more of kind of, on the sidelines and not take all of that responsibility, but ended up the first year with the head coaching position, the mini mite team, the real mini mites, not the drunk ones.
Yep.
But kind of by default, because they had asked the other male coach first and he said no. And then so I ended up with the head coaching.
So I think it's interesting, paralleling our stories, is that I was asked to be a head coach for my first year mini mites as well. And I don't think somebody had to ask me. It wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have stepped up. I wouldn't have done it if somebody hadn't asked. And I think that's something, as we talk about how to get more people involved, a big piece of it is we just have to ask.
Yes.
And not everyone's going to step up. Not everyone. I mean, we both know somebody that we found out she played through high school and she has never coached. And we've been asking. And I'm like, one of these times she's going to say yes.
Two of them that I can think of, Jessica and Jackie.
Jackie.
Just, yeah, we're asking you again.
Yeah.
Again and again and again. Yeah, there is some research that says women have to be asked, and a lot of times asked multiple times. And I found when I was in the 8U or mite level, it was a lot easier to ask because you see more of the parents. And so I'd find out that someone had played, or even if a female can skate, you don't have to have played to be a very good coach. And so I had no problem approaching them and be like, hey, you're coaching.
Yep.
Either this year, or if it was past the deadline, you're coaching next year.
And if you say no, we're going to ask you every year.
And I will keep reminding you that you are coaching. Yeah. Just coach. It's just very important. And knowing you have to ask and creating that safe environment, which I think we've done a pretty good job of within our association.
Yeah. Yep.
Because when I started coaching, even on the girls' side, so at that time, all of the girls were together from the third graders down to the preschoolers. We're all
That's wild.
on the ice together. Yes. And I was the only, that I can recall, I was the only female coach out there, even on the girls' side. And so ended up with the assistant or head coaching that year. And all of my internal dialogue came back to the point of like I was a wreck because I didn't think that I was good enough to coach. Like I would cry myself to sleep. I would think back to like something I did in practice that made me look like an idiot. Like I can't even play hockey, and I didn't feel like I had any value to provide. And so when I really started to dig into like, well, why am I such a mess?
Yeah.
I thought back to like my experiences in hockey and what people were telling me or what I absorbed the most of. Like maybe one person out of 10 was telling me this, but I absorbed it. And it was um, the message around, well, it's not even real hockey because you can't check.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not that big of a deal that you play hockey because it's not real hockey because, girls can't check. And it was, so we grew up, or I was, well, you were about that too, but the Chrissy Wendell, Natalie Darwitz era. So they're two, like, they just got inducted into the USA Hockey or just Hockey Hall of Fame.
Oh, Hall of Fame.
I can't remember which one it is.
What's on the list? It's tough to Google.
Yeah. Yeah. We need notebooks to write down what we need to Google so we can fact check ourselves. But so they were amazing players. They were Olympians. And, talking to some of the boy hockey players, I always wanted to feel like included from them or accepted from them. But I'd get messages like, well, Chrissy Wendell and Natalie Darwitz, they know how to play hockey. The rest of you, like, it's not even really hockey that you're playing. Like, they're legit players. And so that message is like, you have to be the best player in the world or female player in the world in order to be an actual hockey player. And then another one that I felt like I got a lot, or maybe I got it once, but I wholeheartedly absorbed it was, well, if you take the best female athlete in any sport and the best male athlete in any sport, like the male athlete is always going to win. And so it was just a lot of these messages of like not being good enough.
Right.
And I fully absorbed them like a sponge. And all of that came out when I started coaching.
Yes.
So it was this continuous just reel in my head of saying like, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. Like, you don't know how to play hockey. All those dad coaches out there are obviously better than you because boys are just better. Yeah. Because that's how it is. And, you have to be the best person out there on the ice in order to be even considered, good enough.
When I remember feeling that when I was with mites too. It was I have to be more patient. I have to be more engaging. I have to be more, I have to have read the practice plan and know exactly what every drill is just in case they need help with that drill. I have to, when I'm demonstrating, I have to get all the skills perfect. Like there was so much pressure that it was all internal, but it was definitely there, and it definitely made you very insecure.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I think it's just absorbing so much from society that kind of tells you just like female athletes in general aren't, you're never good enough. You're never as good. And then just being on the forefront of playing women's hockey, because it really started right around when we were playing. So it was such a new sport just within the world. And I was a wreck. It was ridiculous, like how much pressure I was putting. I would be afraid to do some of the drill, especially like stick handling. I'm like, I'm a pro skater, but stick handling, I look like a retard.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't even want to demonstrate these drills because what if I miss the puck and then I'm proving to all the people who are watching that, I'm not good enough to be out there because I can't even do these drills that the mites are going to be doing. And, it was just, it was ridiculous. And it's like you feel.
So then how did you get past that? Or do you still feel that way?
I don't as much. And I can't remember who it was, but someone had brought up like, kind of like, do you seriously not think that you can teach or enough to teach 4 and 5-year-olds? And that.
Some days, yes.
Some days, yes. But that really kind of was like that slight flip. It wasn't a full flip because it definitely took years for me to
Well,
feel
it's like
comfortable.
and you and I talk enough that I know you still have those days,
Oh, yeah.
and, so do I.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But they're definitely fewer and get like further between. But it was that like seriously, they're 4 and 5 year olds. Like so I
Yeah.
took down my guard a little bit, but I was still like a mess because there was still something about like, well, I want these male coaches to acknowledge me and acknowledge my expertise and my knowledge around this sport. And I think, they're most likely not going to do that. And even if, one or two do it, I'm going to brush it off like, oh, that's not good enough. Like everyone needed to like acknowledge, or I don't know. But
And I will say for me, that is part of what made a difference is there was a couple gentlemen in our association that do a really good job of not just the female coaches, but all the coaches of encouraging them and be like, you got this. You're doing a great job. Keep up." And that matters because,
it does.
I mean, I think we maybe feel a little more acutely because we're female, but there's definitely some males out there that, I mean, one of the people that I just respect a ton is he'd never skated before really, and he's like, "My kid wants to do this, and I wanna be involved," and so he shows up at the rink in his jeans, and I'm, "Alright, here we go," and he has pushed himself to become a better skater so that he can keep up with the kids, and he's, um, learned the game of hockey the best as he can, and he engages, but he also, I think, is one of those people like us, it it's something that we as female coaches can do to these in return is encourage these male coaches, like, "You're doing great." Like, you like, the kids relate to you, you're doing great, you're doing the things you need to do. It helps, right? But I feel like as females, we maybe need to hear it a little bit more. That's just how we're programmed.
Well, I think we're told more that we're not in
Yeah.
this appropriate space for us. Like we get told more that, it's strange that you're a hockey player.
Yeah.
And so we have more things to get past. We
Yes.
have more messages, like millions of messages.
Messages, yes.
And, the guys maybe have, thousands of messages that they need to kind of get over or push aside or understand and acknowledge and let go of. And I did notice that too, where I was like, God, it was a couple years in. So it's like every year I've grown.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like the first year may suck. The second year is probably going to suck less. And you just progress in your confidence and your knowledge and with everything.
Yeah.
It's just that practice. So it's sticking with it even when it feels hard.
Yeah.
And really the only thing that kept me going was knowing how incredibly important it is for the girls to have a female coach. I mean, even to the point of this year, one of the girls on the other, so we had two B1 teams. I was the head coach of one, and a girl on the other team, like mid-season too. She's like, "Wait, you're the head coach? You're the head coach on that team?" And I was like, yeah, I'm the head coach. And you could just kind of see that light, like, oh,
Yeah. I didn't know about this thing. Yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome.
like maybe I could be a coach. And that's what's kept me going. Otherwise, I would have,
Yep.
oh, for sure, quit. Because those first few years, I was such a wreck.
Well, I think that's a really good point. Like I hadn't, so you and I both try and engage with other female coaches. But I don't think I have ever taken that mindset of like, I need to make sure that they know, like I'm explicitly telling them what you're doing is valuable. Keep doing it. We need you here. Like I've never thought to say that to somebody. But we should, right?
Right. Yeah, we should. Yeah, both like you said, there's quite a few males. Like I have a assistant coach on my team that also never played, but he brings so much value
And energy.
to the order, which I don't. Like
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I am the fun one. I'm not the one that's gonna hype you up in the locker room.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So there are so many times where it's like, all right, you're in charge of the pregame speech because mine is just like monotone, like
Don't suck.
yeah. Like get the puck. If we don't have the puck, we can't score. That's just how the game works.
Yeah.
And he just can have all that passion. And then he's, we learned the game many, many years ago.
Yeah.
And he's learning the game now. So there's things that we take for granted with just like, this is just how you do it. Like, you shoot this way. That's it. And not always know how to break it down.
Yeah.
Whereas the coaches who you don't have that hockey experience, if they have the desire to, learn how to shoot and how to shoot well, they're watching YouTube videos and they're watching people break it down, which they can then bring, to the practice to help
Right.
the kids learn. So there's so much value there. But yeah, I did realize too, like I have such a strong desire for that acknowledgement. And then I realized, like, well, the coaches who are putting the practice plans together and who are running the practices, like, I don't acknowledge them. Like,
Yeah.
I'm craving this acknowledgement, but at the same time,
Not giving it. Yeah.
yeah. And so I started being, communicating more and creating awareness and making sure, this year too, like I had new assistant coaches. So for 4 years in the 8U program, it was kind of our same group coming up together. So it's like I knew them very, very well. And then within our program, the girls at 10U, they co-op. So it's Rogers and Anoka. And so I had three of us came from Rogers and 3 from Anoka. So totally new coaches, but making sure that I was acknowledging them and understanding like where they could bring value and making sure that, I was giving them those opportunities to also grow. Because I always told them, like, you aren't like my assistants. You're not my admins. Like, you are here to provide just as much value,
Right.
To these girls as I am. And I'm not good at everything.
Yep.
Like, that's the thing. Like, you do the pregame speeches because that is communication. Like, that is you. And then, just with different drills, it's like, all right, be in charge of that because you're good at that.
One of the blessings for me this year is I know a decent amount about goaltending. It's not my specialty. It's also not something like I'm hugely interested in, but I had a dad that no playing experience really, but his son wanted to play goalie. And so he went all in and he watches the videos and he plans goalie drills for practices and he does all the things all goalie. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like, you're doing a great job doing that. Take something off my plate that I'm not as skilled at.
Right.
But it's like, right, you have to acknowledge those people are doing things because he's probably super insecure because he's new to hockey and he's never been on a travel team, never had a goalie that's like in real games because, in nights it's half ice and it's a different mindset, a different pace of play, different everything. And so I'm sure there's insecurities, but we all have to be better about acknowledging what people are bringing to the table.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And not just thinking it, but
Saying
saying
it.
them.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, so what I've coached this is my 5th year coaching. And definitely if I look back to who I was 5 years ago, I have come very, very far. But there still are those triggers. Like we talked about at the beginning of the season, Tara got the feedback of one of her players being distraught that he got stuck with the female coach, and parents asking around to previous players who you had coached if
I was gonna make their kid better or worse this year.
right, if you were actually going to be able to teach them how to play
Hockey. Yeah.
hockey. And then I had an experience at the beginning of the year where someone was really upset that their daughter was on my team and wished that she would have been on the other B1 team after she saw my initial practice, because my practice didn't look like hockey. And what else was I gonna say on that? I'm blanking. And maybe I'm not supposed to. I don't know. But that was it. Then the feedback was, she really likes you as a coach because you're very nice. But we're gonna have to sign her up for other things outside of the association so that she actually learns hockey this year. And to us as females, it feels like it wasn't. Was it because I didn't look like hockey out there on the ice, or was it what I was doing? And if a male coach had been out there, would she have had the same response? Because the male coach who never played hockey was her daughter's coach a few years before. And I think it was just this year where she realized that he had never played
Yep.
before, which to someone who had played hockey, it's you watch someone skate and you know that they hadn't played before. But for her, he looked, and this is my, female coaching brain thinking of it through that lens. Like to her, he looked like hockey, even though he had never played, where I've been playing hockey for, I don't know how many years.
Yeah. Enough.
A few years. But yet I didn't look like hockey to her. And it feels very much like it was more what I look like and less about
What you were doing.
right.
Yeah. And I think, so did you ever have female coaches?
I had one assistant female coach 1 year in college.
Okay. So you had that same, you don't necessarily know what it looks like to be a female coach.
Right.
And so that adds that insecurity. Am I doing it right? Am I making it look believable?
Right.
Are people going to take me seriously? Can I? And then you end up with the moms that are reinforcing all of your negative self-thought with, no, you don't look like hockey.
Right.
And that's really hard to get over. And it has nothing to do with who you are as a coach or a person or a hockey player. It's just somebody else's, their experiences that she probably has never seen a female coach before or had a female coach that was effective before. And that's hard. It's hard to get over people's learned behaviors or learned thought patterns, particularly when they don't give you a chance to before they open their mouth.
It was 10 minutes into our first practice.
Yeah.
She was going to the board, apparently, is what I heard later. And I mean, I had a conversation with her and the conversation went really, really well, which again, I think speaks to, my growth is 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to have a conversation with someone. And, I'm pretty comfortable with that now, just experience coaching. And then I have my own business. But it was tempting to just be like, fuck it, I'm out. Like, really? It's been a week, a day. And like, I can't do this because it was that shift from mites to tenue. So it does feel, I got to be more serious. I got to, it's more serious hockey because now it's full ice and it's not just for fun. And so it's a different beast. And so
it's a different financial commitment for the parents too. Well, there's actually a whole other level of pressure that they're feeling because of how much they wrote that check for.
Right. Right.
It's not a small check.
Yeah. And it's time. There's a lot more of a time commitment. And so, I mean, I was going through some of those insecurities and I didn't even know, like during tryouts, you don't know if you're even going to be asked to be
a coach, right?
A coach or the head coach. Yeah. So I had, my own little stories coming back of like, oh, well, you're not good enough to be a head coach at this level. You're good enough at the younger ages, but, now that it's real hockey, someone else is going to have to jump in. So I do, appreciate that I was given that chance. And also because it was the two associations, like my association knows me, my coaches know me. So talking to them too, they're like, I was in my own little like bubble of coaches who I've proven myself to. Like they know me. They don't even question the fact that I'm out there coaching or, whether I'm going to do a good job. And then having that other association who has no idea who I am. They have no experience with me. And so I think there was our board really told that Anoka board, like, no, she is going to be a good coach. So, I heard that later from.
Oh, that's nice.
So that, makes me feel good. But I still felt like, is that really true? And then having to prove myself. But sticking through this year, I felt like it was a really good year. I had some, obviously little gremlins coming in and still saying, you're not doing good enough or you should just let someone else coach. But I got so much like good feedback that I know I'm in the right place. And when I can step back and get rid of all those gremlins and just be out there on the ice and be like in my element, not thinking of anyone outside of me judging me when when I don't even know that there are people watching, like, it's such a different feeling.
Yeah.
And it feels like I'm in the right space and for the right reasons. Like I tell my coaches too, it's like you can have incredibly high empathy and incredibly high expectations at the same time.
Yes.
Because what I didn't mention when I came into the association, that the expectation for the girls, it was appalling.
Yeah.
Um, the dads with the mini mites were skating around. If the girls fell down, they would
Pick them up.
pick them up.
I remember I asked you about that one time, like, what is going on out there?
Yeah. And like we talked about in Tara's episode, is like falling down and getting up is a hockey skill.
Yeah.
Like you practice falling down and getting up at all levels of hockey because you're not going to get through a game without falling down.
And that's a message that I know on the boys' side we hear a lot and we say a lot is it is okay to fall down. If you're not falling down, you're not trying hard enough.
Right.
That was not the message on the girls' side.
No. So to see, and it's not that it was, I don't think it was a message like, oh, it's bad if you fall down.
No,
it was just like, we need to help you back up.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, don't touch them. Like, this is a skill they need to learn. We had girls, like I said, we had preschoolers and third graders all together. So 8U and 6U were all together on the ice. And the older girls, like when I'd get them at my station, because you coach, everyone on the ice, do stations. And I remember we'd be playing tag and they'd be playing tag slow-mo. And I just stop them and I'd, do like a silly, like, does this look like hockey? And just like over exaggerate what they were doing and just like my feet going and them like slowly going after each other. And they'd be like, or does this look like hockey?
Yeah.
And start doing, fast start stops like they were supposed to be doing in tag.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you serious that these coaches have been letting them get away with this for so long? Like, this is not hockey. The girls are coming out here to learn how to be hockey players. So let's teach them how to be hockey players and not let them just do nothing.
I don't feel like, because I don't feel like any dad or coach in charge or anyone was actively trying to, I mean, they really had best intentions. I think what they didn't know is how far can you push a girl that's not your own?
Right.
And if it is your own, like, how far can you push them? Or, I've had situations, my younger one is spicy at times. And I have had times where I'm like, I can't. Somebody else needs to come in and coach him.
Right.
Somebody else needs to step in and make him do what he's supposed to be doing because he and I right now are not. And I the same thing with the dads. I don't think they knew how to push further with their own kids sometimes. And I think that's just part of these gender expectations that have been taught, particularly to our generation. I mean, our generation was very male, female, feminine, masculine. It wasn't like today where girls and boys kind of, it's still there.
Yes. Yeah.
But not as bad as it was when we were younger. And so I feel like these dads just don't know. And that's why it's important to have the female coaches saying, no, you can push them harder. They can see the boys are like on the other side of the ice doing that. These girls are all capable of that.
Yeah.
And they should have that same expectation that they are doing that.
Right.
But it takes, I think, a female voice to come in and say, you guys, come on.
You're ridiculous. Yes. And I did ask. I mean, even when I was, my emotional wreck at myself, when I started seeing these things, I was like, okay, why are we doing this? And we need to make some changes. And the feedback I got was, well, the girls' numbers are small. And so we need to make sure that they come back. So we need to be very gentle with them. And again, well-intentioned.
Yep.
But coming from a female athlete, a female hockey player, it was like they came to play hockey.
Yep.
And that they want to become good hockey players. And so let's teach them how to actually be good hockey players and not just be gentle with them. And like I said, I think you can have high empathy and high expectations at the same time. Like, it doesn't have to be one or the other. Like, you can let them know, like, No, hockey players skate fast. They skate hard. They bump into each other. They fall down. They get back up. Like, they want that puck.
Yeah.
And when someone is, their feet hurt or they're having a bad day, you can then have that empathy to like help them through that and help them with the harder, like the mindset side of hockey with like, yeah, it sucks. Hockey is hard.
Yep.
And so it doesn't have to be one or the other. And I feel like with the girls, it was, we need to be soft and gentle with them and not have those high expectations because they might cry.
Right.
Okay, I have seen the boys cry on the ice more than I have seen the girls cry on the ice. So this whole concept,
So many tears in hockey.
yes. So this whole concept of like, well, we can't, make the girls, we don't want the girls to cry. It's like the boys are crying too, and we help them through that, and we still have expectations of what it looks like to be a hockey player.
We're also we're not. If you don't think as a parent that your daughter's looking over at the boys and saying, "Wow, they're the same age and they can already do that," and not feeling like, I guess I'm not supposed to be a hockey player.
Right.
No, they want to look over them and be like, I know how to do that.
Right.
I could beat him in that race. That's how you get the girls to stay. Not oh, let's be nice and have fun and have it be sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
That they're not there for that. They want to be seen as equal. They want to be treated as equal. They don't, and maybe they don't want to commingle because I get it. Boys have cooties.
Right.
I get it. Right. Like the boys are the same way. Sometimes other girls have cooties. But the other disservice that you're doing is when the boys look over and see the girls developing at a much slower rate because they're not being held the same expectations, the boys automatically are like, oh, girls aren't as good as at hockey, or girls they're not meant to be hockey players. And then you start this whole generational cycle of girls not being welcome in hockey all over again.
Right.
And that sucks.
And that is like my biggest trigger because of what I experienced.
Right.
And seeing all those things and not feeling like, I was good enough. And then having to get over that, mindset in my 30s, which was not easy because there was a lot to unpack. And so that's part of, even this podcast too. It's like, what can we do to create that environment so that my daughter, who's 10 now, doesn't have to unpack all of these, like, I'm not good enoughs in her life when she's in her 30s.
Yeah.
Like, let's just create that equal playing field. Because again, like, they're out there to play the sport.
Right.
They want to be good hockey players. And we create this environment where it feels like, okay, the best boy hockey player is up here and then the worst is down here. And then it's this feeling of, okay, then we go over and this is the best girl hockey player who's equal with the worst boy hockey player. Like, that's kind of that mindset I think that society has created, where it's like, okay, boys are on this pedestal and then girls are, start at the bottom and then they go. Where the reality is, and if you actually watch them play, it's, there are top boys and top girls that are equal, and it goes all the way down. And that is also, like, I remember, kind of challenging some of the dad coaches on some of the things we were doing and hearing the, like, well, boys are just naturally more aggressive.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, if you're seeing all the girls through this lens, then you're not going to push them to be aggressive, or you're not even going to see and acknowledge them being aggressive, when the reality is, again, it's like, there are incredibly aggressive boys, there are incredibly aggressive girls, and there are
enough siblings fighting. The girls aren't just as aggressive.
Right. And then there's also boys, like, there's been boys on Cody's teams where it's like they don't want to go in the corner because they don't want to get hit at all.
Yeah.
And then there are girls at that level. So to say that, it's just not. And I'm sure we'll get into this when we interview the program director for coaching her, but it's all these misconceptions that really then create this environment. And a lot of us don't even realize that we have these because nothing's ever challenged. Like, that's just the lens that we see life through, and nothing has triggered us in our lives to start questioning those pieces, like me, like coaching. And then I also started my own business, and so that created a whole bunch of, the not good enough moment. So I had kind of those two triggers where I started to unpack.
So is that insecurity and stuff, is that why you didn't coach Cody when he was younger? Or was it because Becker did it? Or your husband?
Yeah. Becker, if we call him Becker.
Or was it it just didn't. What was it?
It could have very well have been.
Yeah.
Like I always say, I don't think I would have survived on the boys' side. It feels like so much more work. And I had that easy out
Yeah.
with my husband played hockey. I played hockey. We have a boy, we have a girl. All right, you go coach the boy. I'll go coach the girl. So if I was in the same situation as you, where I was the only hockey player in my family, yeah, probably would have coached both. But if there was an easy out, I would have taken it.
Yep.
Because,
That makes sense. It was scary. It is scary. It's
right.
It's intimidating. Particularly because where we are at, we're blessed with some very good hockey players that are coaching.
Right.
And watching some of them on the ice, you're like, dang. And then you're like, I don't belong here.
Right. Right. Yeah. Gino Geyer used to do all the skating stuff at the beginning of the girls. And there's some things he did. I was like, can I do that? I could. One of them was just like quick touching your knees down to the ice. And I tried it not in front of anyone. I tried it somewhere where like no one could see me. And I was like, oh, I can do that. That's fun. But there's definitely, some things where it's like,
Well, so that's one of the things I've actually really enjoyed about Mites is I think I became a better skater because I was forced to practice all those skills again.
Right.
And I was doing them with all the kids and demonstrating to the kids. And I was like, I think I'm maybe a better technical skater now than I ever was when I was playing.
Right. But right. Because you have to think of it and demonstrate it properly.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the big question.
Yes.
What do you hope your legacy in hockey is?
So I hope my legacy is that I was a catalyst for positive changes. So our family has done things differently than a lot of the hockey world where we said no, like a hard no to off-season hockey. And now people, 6, 7 years in, people are now starting to be like, we see you guys not doing hockey and your kids, are doing well. And that gives us the encouragement to not do hockey in the off season and not be, because I believe this is the way hockey is throughout the whole country, but Minnesota is its own unique little bubble, but it is just from age 5, 6, hockey year round, like very intense. And so I hope to be that example and that person who encourages people to stop and think, okay, this normal, quote unquote, normal thing that's happening around me, is that actually what I want to do?
Yep.
And so I've found that, like in my business, I do process improvement. So I'm always challenging the norm. And in hockey, as people were asking us, are you going to do X, Y, and Z in the off season? And having done, USA Hockey has a ton of classes that says, don't do that.
Yeah.
And so I fully believe and trust the science behind, what USA Hockey teaches is in not doing that. And so we, instead of just kind of going with the flow and saying, oh, this is what everyone else is doing and this is what we have to do, we really stopped and thought, but is this good for our kid? Is this good for our family? Let's really look into this and make a decision that's best for us.
Yep.
And not just, let's just do what everyone else is doing. Or you hear a lot like, well, it is what it is. This is just what you have to do. And that is my least favorite phrase, like in the business world, in my personal life, in the hockey space, is like, no, it's never like, it is what it is. If it's not working, let's change it. So being that catalyst for positive changes and being that example and encouraging people to make changes, even if it goes against the grain.
So I know you've gotten pushback from people.
Oh.
Have any of those people that have given you pushback in the past, have any of them come back around?
No, the family that I'm thinking of now, they never vocally said anything to, or verbally said anything to us.
Yeah.
Vocalized anything. Words.
Yeah.
Such a pain. But they did, they talked to myself and my husband throughout this year, just saying like, we see what you're doing, and we know you've been talking about this from the get-go.
Yep.
Really, and now we aren't doing it.
Yeah, and I was like you, we don't do year-round hockey either. But what I noticed was with our adult mini mites, um, the the they're all new to hockey, but almost all of them are athletes in another space. And that crossover athleticism, I noticed it. Like Denise, for example, she was making a play. I'm like, oh, she must play soccer. Right. And it's so important, though, that they have these skills because they were able to do hockey things with skills that they've learned in another environment. And their body is better and stronger because of it. And they're also smart about how to think about the game because they bring in concepts from other sports that they know. And I think we lose that a lot when we focus on one thing and we don't let our kids explore new interests.
Right. Or just be kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just let them have time to be kids. We have 2 kids in one sport each, and we're crazy busy.
Yep.
So I can't imagine like when you have your kids in multiple sports year round. And I have looked, there's no research out there that says specializing in one sport or playing one sport year round is valuable at the younger ages. Like they can specialize, late, junior high, high school, middle school, whatever. That
Well, and it's important to notice or to recognize also that being involved in a sport doesn't mean you're on a travel team. It can be like our boys both play house baseball or my one son casually golfs, but there's athletic skills involved in that. And so my other son loves to play pickleball. Like there's all sorts of athleticism that they're building that isn't an organized activity that is costing us time and money. And for my family in particular, I'm sure yours, like going up north and going fishing and going to the cabin and having time to travel and do things as a family is more important than hockey.
Right.
I love hockey, but that's not why I had a family play hockey year round.
Right.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. And that doesn't take away from the fact that we love the sport. And my kids have asked. I mean, they've been upset with us because we've said no. But we have.
Was that just because they were interested in doing it or because they felt the pressure to do it?
Who knows? I guess I never.
Yeah.
It
was just no.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. They know that other kids are doing these other things. And it's not like they don't want to do it. And we have had to say no, and we've explained it to them as well. It's like, we don't want you to burn out. We want you to still have love and passion for this game. Like both kids, hockey is their top sport. Like Cody plays baseball in the summer, and then Hannah plays lacrosse. But if you ask them, their favorite sport is hockey.
Yeah,
and they would both jump at the chance to play all the time. But knowing and seeing all the research around burnout and listening to a ton of podcasts. So the Hockey Think Tank is a great podcast around this topic.
Yeah.
And it's multi-sport athletes become better athletes. Like there are transferable skills. No matter what sport you're playing, it transfers to hockey. So if hockey is still your top game, Cody's becoming a better hockey player playing baseball. Hand-eye coordination, strength, speed. He has to sprint to the bases. Hannah's becoming a better hockey player by playing lacrosse. And so they're not losing anything from being the multi-sport athletes. And then just physically, kids nowadays they're having hip surgery in high school because of overuse.
Yeah.
It's like, that's when you should be in your prime. And that's not just a high school injury.
No.
That's a life.
And it's not hockey either. It's
right.
All sports.
But that's a whole separate topic that other podcasts
will have it another day.
Yeah. And other podcasts do really, really well about. So again, like the Hockey Think Tank, like that is their mission to, impact that environment. And so that's a great resource for that space. But again, we could talk about that for hours.
Yeah.
But that's just like challenging the status quo and being that catalyst and that example of like, no, we can take a step back. We can make positive changes that really bring more, light, love, excitement, happiness, enjoyment into our lives.
Yep.
And
yeah. Close us out?
Oh, yeah. We do say things at the end. I was like, I was done. Yes. So I will close it out. That was my hockey story. And ladies, remember that you deserve to be a part of the greatest game in the world and you belong in the sport of hockey.
Right. Thank
You
you.
had a thing too. You forgot it.
Don't suck. Remember what it was. Yes. Just remember to
Asking you to.
invite somebody in.
Oh, yeah. That's what it was. Invite someone in. I thought that was a good one.
Yeah. So do your part.
We'll write it down in our hands
Yeah.
next time.